Hi, I'm Lenora.
I'm Kristen. Hello.
I'm Isabel. Hola. Hi, I'm Isabel. I am the founder and firebrand of the Upright and Smart. I am the childhood friend you always wanted to have but never knew you needed. So if you maybe struggle with feelings of insecurity, shame, or guilt around your choice to not have children, I'm your girl. I'm also the hostess of the Honest Upper podcast and one of the co-creators of Nunca Madres, Childfree in Spanish.
Hi, my name is Lenora Faye. I'm a child-free lifestyle advocate. I am a co-founder of Childfree Media, which is a network leading the conversation for those interested in the child-free lifestyle. And we were the proud presenters of the 2022 Virtual Topic Convention, which you can now watch on YouTube.
That was faster than I thought. I was already used to have so many things. Not that you don't have as many things now, but they're all like consolidated. Hi, I'm Kristen Tetzi, author of The Age of the Child, which is a story about a desperately child-free woman who finds herself pregnant after a recent overturn of Roe versus Wade. Oh, and we are the three founding.
Non-mothers.
Yes. I was like, child-free what? We are the three founding non-mothers of Childfree Girls, which you are either watching or listening to, because if you don't know, we are both a YouTube series and a podcast. And today we are actually taking something from an email someone sent us. This is a person we hope to have on a future episode, but he said that we were free to use. He sent us this incredibly long email with some thoughts he had, and we thought that some of those thoughts would be interesting to discuss here with you. One of which is, are introverts better at being child-free? Because it's better if you're an introvert to be child-free, I guess, than to be a parent, or like, would it suit your personality better? I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to let you two answer that.
Are you going to answer it like at all, or
me? Wait. Maybe later. Yeah.
Okay. Like, wait, is this a new rule we've introduced to the show?
No, it's a secret.
Not participating in this episode.
Yeah. My opinion is irrelevant.
We made her sign a new contract. Okay.
Yeah, it's called Shut Up, Kristen. Because you're both kind of introverts.
But yes, we are.
I thought you were too.
But we're not talking about you right now.
Right. Okay.
We will get back to you, Kristen said. Don't worry about it.
She's worried. She's really worried. I can tell.
Yeah, you can see it in her eyes. I'm just wondering what he meant with if it's easier to be child-free. You know what I mean? Like, how?
Let me maybe read the confirm the wording, because there might be the slightest word difference that makes a difference in the question. So just to be sure I am quoting him accurately, I am now opening up his email in which he says, do you feel like introverts, okay, this is different. Do you feel like introverts are more comfortable as child-free? And then I think it's probably safe. There's kind of a follow-up after that. It looks like a separate question, but I think it follows the first one pretty logically. He writes that some people are charged up by endless talking. It wears me out. Do you feel that folks like me are more happy as child-free? So I think those two kind of go together.
Okay. Well, it is true. I mean, I'm also, if I'm around like a lot of people who are like talking to me and being extroverted and just like interacting, and just that wears me out. Like I can't go to 2 parties in a row in the same weekend. That I can't. Like I'm not physically able to cope. I can do one, and then I need my way of recharging is to be in a quiet space by myself, usually, or my dogs, asleep maybe. So I think, yes, I mean, if I think about one of the things about having children is that you have to interact with them when you're with them, of course. And especially when they're young and they're like starting to ask all these questions and why this, why that, why. And then you have, as a parent, you would want to explain the world as best as you can to your kid. I think that would definitely wear me out. If I have like a very babbly, talkative kid, like that would, yeah, that would definitely wear me out. So in that sense, I think that child-free people, introverted child-free people, I would say, we also sort of like know and understand that in order for us to preserve our mental health, like we know that we can't be around a lot of people all the time, and you can't get rid of a child. So I don't know. What do you think, Lenora?
Well, I'm having a hard time keeping a straight face because I'm a babbly, chatty person, but I'm also an introvert. So I talk to myself 24/7.
You're like both, right? You're like an extra introvert.
I mean, and I'm what, omnivert
or something. Yeah,
I mean, I am. I've got an outgoing personality, but in reality, I am an introvert because I prefer to be alone. And when I'm with a bunch of people, I give all my energy to them, and then I'm exhausted, and then need to have a lot of downtime to recharge. So I appear to be an extrovert, but I'm really not. And to answer the question, I as I get older, that's definitely was a good choice because I had mistaken myself for an extrovert in my early days, including my 20s. And so if I had had kids without understanding that I need a lot of alone time, that I'm best when I have a lot of alone time, and then I can be my effervescent self, and be genuine about it, and then go back to my cave, right? But with kids, there's especially in the mother role, that would have been difficult to maneuver without understanding. Even now understanding, I'm very happy that I chose not to have kids. I mean, look, obviously there are a lot of introverts that have kids, and there's a lot of extroverted people who are exhausted by their children because children are exhausting. And I also knew I didn't want to raise a version of myself because that would also be exhausting. So, I mean, how do we really know because we don't have kids? But I'm going to venture a guess and say introverts are more comfortable being child free, but also on that same vein, because I've been having these conversations about, caring for things, having something to care for, whether it's a pet or a person, or in my case, my creativity, like in projects. Introverted people want to care for something. We all want to have something to care for, I think. So, but kids, that's just that's another human, and that's a whole other ball of energy you have to deal with. And I don't know, the whole point, well, not the whole point of being, I don't know what the point of being an introvert is. You just are or you aren't. But, to me, being an introvertedness is being able to have a lot of solitude because I'm, on a road trip by myself and talking to you guys, but I'm by myself. And I am massively decompressing right now because I need to. And so to have somebody here physically, unless they are like me, not chatty me, but introverted me, would be exhausting. And having kids, no, not here. I absolutely, I'm way more comfortable here being child free on my solo road trip than anything else. Did I answer the question, Kristen?
Well, it's really funny that you just said that because this is like how big the disconnect is, I think, between someone who doesn't have kids and someone who has this whole family. My friend recently took a trip to some great cabin in Utah. She sent me video of these gorgeous mountains and all this open space and everything. And then as she panned around, it was like her husband and her 2 kids and her 2 dogs. And I was like, why is everyone there? Because I think, yeah, vacation, you go away.
Exactly.
I was seriously confused. I was like, if your whole family, you basically just brought your whole household to a new house, what's the point? I mean, it really confused me for a second. And I had to remember back to when my dad, my sister, and me, because it was just the 3 of us, would go on a vacation together. He didn't obviously go on a vacation and leave us behind. We all went together as a family, which made sense. It was just very confusing to me for a second. And another thing you said about mistaking yourself as an extrovert when you were younger made me wonder if introversion, I'm sure there are probably teenage introverts, but I also wonder if it's something that you can develop as you get older. Because when I was younger, like in high school, I didn't feel the need to be away from people as much. And I enjoyed, if I could have gone out 3 nights in a row to the bar, I would have. I mean, I just loved going out. I loved probably drinking around people and partying with people. And when I was at home the next day, I didn't necessarily feel the need to be alone. So that wasn't something I even came into until much later. And my dad was an introvert parent, which was very obvious. And I was a chatty kid, so I didn't make it easy on him.
That sounds familiar.
Chatty kid.
I don't know. That is a good point. Do we develop that? Because when I look back, I was always chatty. I can imagine how chatty I was as a kid. I don't know. I feel like I've always been comfortable being by myself. Because I craved that as a kid. I craved alone time. But, when you're a kid, you're carted everywhere with your parents. I had to go on family vacations where the joke was we took the kitchen sink because we had a motorhome. So everything came with us all the time. But even then, I wanted to be by myself. And, I liked hanging out with friends when I was allowed to, which didn't happen until later. But also maybe it's too because I was really weird from my peers for a lot of reasons. So, I just maybe felt more comfortable on my own because I didn't have a lot of people my age to relate to ever, So I don't know. It's a good question. But definitely in my 20s, I realized how quickly I was exhausted by being around a lot of people because I was out a lot in social settings, a lot in my 20s and early 30s, which is when I realized I need to stop this because I'm really getting tired and grumpy and miserable. Quite honestly, I wanted to be by myself. So, I just think it just got more obvious as I got older. So I don't know. It's a good thought.
When you were younger, Isabel, did you have the same amount of desire to be alone or as you do now?
Oh yeah.
Really?
In generally through my life, generally I've disliked being around people. I don't know what it is, now I think about it. Like, I don't know if it's because I always felt very weird. Like, I wasn't your typical kid. Like, when kids my age were running around playing outside, I would also play outside sometimes, but I prefer to curl up with a book. Like, I would read a lot, and that wasn't very common for children my age when I was growing up. And I was like, I've always been very curious by nature, so I wanted to learn. I wanted to be like mentally, like be challenged at a different level. I guess I sort of grew up very quickly for that and other reasons, pertaining my family life. And so I didn't feel I connected with peers. And this was all the way until I arrived to university. So it was all through school and high school. And I generally disliked being around people. I didn't, I feel I feel this. The thing is, how do you define being an introvert? Like, I know I'm an introvert, and some people say, "Oh, introverts are people who recharge by being alone, while extroverts are people who recharge while being surrounded by a lot of people." And then other people say that introverts are people who don't need mental stimulation from other people, but need it from like other sources, like books or movies, what have you, or magazines, and like mental stimulation from other people is a little bit is what extroverted people need. So how do you define it? And in any way that you define it, like I can think of so many ways. Like I feel that I'm like 100% an introvert, and my friends know that too. So they know that if I say no, I don't want to go out, they know it's not because I don't like them. It's because I really can't be around a lot of people all the time. I can be like one-on-one with someone. Yeah, maybe like very small groups. It's okay. But I dread going to big parties, for example. I just feel so awkward. And it's been my whole life. I just feel very self-conscious for some reason. It's really strange.
So what must these cruises, like these girl trips with other child-free women be like for you?
It's different,
Is it
because it's small groups. Usually, I mean, it's been small groups up until now, and I feel that because we connect in the sense that we're child free and we want to explore, well, not necessarily the world, but maybe specifically that part of the world. Um, it feels more like you're in the day to day, right? Like it doesn't feel at all like I feel when I have to be at these social gatherings that just feel too much for me. And also there are a lot of spaces in the trips that I've planned so far. There are a lot of spaces for like personal time because people. I mean, if you're around people 24/7, it doesn't matter if it's one day or two or three. I personally know I'll end up a bit like, okay, I need my space now. Thank you so much. And I know there are people like that too. And I think the women that I've traveled with, they appreciate that as well because they're like, do we have time for ourselves? They asked me, and I was like, of course. You have free time. You can do whatever you want during your free time. And I try not to pack a lot of things in the planning because I feel that's, like I said, it's too much.
It's nice to meet someone else who is also self-conscious or feels weird around other people. Sometimes I wonder if that's part of, I know that that's not all of the contributing energy to my own introversion, because even if I am with someone that I feel very, very comfortable with and enjoy being around, I'm still very happy for that person to go away so that I can be alone and just not have to have a conversation. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to exist in a space where there's another human being for a while. But when it comes to like social gatherings or things like that, I think it's a combination of, okay, that's a whole lot of people in a small amount of time, and that's overwhelming. But you add to that the component of feeling awkward around them or self-conscious around them, and that's just like this whole extra stress, in that kind of environment, which kind of also makes me more happy to go home and be alone,
Yeah.
where nobody can judge me, nobody can see me, and
Yeah. No, I totally get it. The same feeling that I have. I have a question for you. Is Ian an introvert or an extrovert?
he's he likes being alone, but he's not like me. Like we would have parties if it weren't for me.
Okay, so he's more of an extrovert. But I think
Yeah.
it's good for introverted people to have extroverted friends or partners or what have you. I think it's
Mhm.
good because it sort of you balance each other out. Like I feel, for example, I'm dating this guy and he's a complete 100% extrovert. He's the kind of person that would just talk to people in the street just for he would just like spark up a conversation with anyone. I would never ever do that. I just feel I don't have that in me. Um, and so I feel that sometimes he sort of like brings my energy levels up, because of the way that he is. Not because he's pushing me to do it, but it sort of like rubs off him, you know what I mean? And at the same time, I feel that I can also like calm him down sometimes when it's becoming a little bit too much for him because I guess that's also exhausting at some point, even if you're an extrovert.
And he understands
What?
you, like so I don't know, I get the impression, at least the way people talk about introverts, as if it's like a condition, instead of instead of as if it's simply you have extroverts and you have introverts, and it's a
Yeah.
kind of a half-half thing. Instead, people talk about introverts like, here's how to treat one, and here's what it means. And so I just wonder if, as extroverted as he is, if he has had to like figure you out, or if he just gets it, or
It's funny because when you said there are extroverts and there are introverts, I thought there are people like there are child-free, there are people that don't have kids. Like being child-free is also not a condition.
right.
But having kids is.
That's true.
Does he understand me? I think sometimes he gets, it's interesting because sometimes he's like, I'm gonna, for example, he calls me and he's like, I'm gonna go out with my friends. And I'm like, yeah, cool, go ahead, go with your friends. They go out, drink beer, talk, whatever guys do. I don't know. And he goes, are you gonna go out? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna stay home. And he worries for me. Like, he's like, do you have, do you want to call a friend? Like, do something? Like, don't you want to, like, I don't know, grab a coffee or pizza or something? And I'm thinking to myself, no, dude, like, this is what I want to do. I want to be at home. I want to be by myself. I want to be alone. And I think at the beginning it was hard for him to grasp that because it doesn't compute in his mind. Like, why would you want to stay at home on a Friday night or whatever by yourself? That doesn't make any sense. But I think he understands it now. Because I think he sees that being alone, it doesn't make me miserable. The contrary, it actually makes me very happy. And I'm more relaxed and I'm more, when he sees me afterwards, then I'm more recharged, and then we can go on about, and do whatever we do on our dates. So, but it took him a little bit, for sure.
So I like interacting with people for a purpose. Like I'm okay in a big crowd if there's a point to it, because because I do like to entertain people. I like to have conversations with people, and I like to ask people about themselves, which makes it easier to interact with people because people like to talk about themselves. So, and they don't often get an opportunity to. So, and to me, I like learning just from people's experiences. So if I run into people who are open to share whatever it is that we're, whatever personal experiences they're going through or have had, whatever, I like that. And I get energy to a point, but then at the end of the day, then I'm done. Like you need like a day or two of nothing. And even in the virtual space, because I talk to people pretty much every day in the virtual space, like, and even with voice. And I find that I get worn out after a time from that, especially if I put a lot into the interaction, but I do like that. So I'm wondering, like, I can gain energy from the conversation. And sometimes I meet people where I get energy from talking with them because it's usually one-on-one, but I'm always energized after talking with you two, like I always feel, I do always feel better after we've done one of these recordings, because it's just, and to me, that's special because that's not always the case. So I do appreciate that. I'd probably wear you two out, but that wouldn't be the first time. But
Virtual vert.
Pardon?
You're a virtual vert.
Well, it's only because that's been the only option, because
all the talking you were like, I don't know if you're still on Clubhouse as much, but
I
you
am.
engage in, and I don't mean talking as in talking at people, but I mean just all the engaging in conversation that you do on Clubhouse
5 days a week,
every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were doing it once a week, and I was just like, this is way too much talking, this is too much conversing, this is too much interaction, I just cannot do this.
I do take Sundays off now, though. I'm on every other Saturday and every morning. Every weekday morning I'm on. But see, I enjoy that because there's a point to it. Look, if we're going to have mindless conversation, no, I've never been a small talk girl. That wears me out. We can talk about really intense things via text or in person or video or audio. I love that. I do get tired after a time and need a break, and I need to just chill out. But there's a point to that because I'm learning something. And oftentimes it's nice to share experiences, even if you don't understand the other person's experience. So I don't necessarily know if that falls in the introverted category, or that's just something I personally am called to. That's kind of like my path, because I guess that's what I like in the child-free space. It's like I'll show up, start the conversation, but I want to listen to people's experiences. That I think that's something different than a personality trait. But in like, if I were to do a big crowd, let's say Childfree Convention went to in-person things, which is something we are working towards to eventually, I would be in that situation. But like Isabel, I would need to be able to escape, power down for a bit, and then come back out again. Like, don't for a second think I would need somebody around me all the time, because that just no, it doesn't work. Because I do need that, let's step away. Because even here on this road trip, I have everything with me, and so I'm still doing morning chats and stuff, but I'm out of my house and I'm not talking to anyone really here, so yeah, like I need that, because there's a lot of energy that flows through me, so I need to like let it all go. And I'm not, when I'm going down that letting everything go, I am not great to be around, because I have nothing to give you. I have like, don't come at me. I've got nothing for you, and I don't like being in that place, I don't like being in that state and having to be around people. I'm okay if I'm just by myself having to go through that. And I think that might be an introverted thing too, like, because I need to release everything, but I don't want to bring somebody else down with me, you know? So I need to be by myself in that state.
Yeah. You know what I've noticed? I've noticed that introverts are usually fiercely independent people.
We have to be.
Well, yeah.
We kind of have, because that's
By
like the worst thing.
definition.
Sorry, I'm like, well, yeah.
By definition. Yeah, so we're either born independent and we're like, yeah, I'm just gonna be an introvert, or we're born introvert and then we're like, we need to become independent because I don't want to have people around me. That's true. So independence in the sense that we learn how to take care of ourselves, we will learn how to tend to our own needs. And usually we're very bad at asking for help, very bad at asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that because it's so overwhelming for some of us to be around people all the time, I don't know if this is a trait that every introverted person has, because I don't know if there might be introverts that don't get so worn out. I have no idea. I've never met one, but there might be one. I have no idea. So in that sense, like I cannot imagine having to run around a child all day long. Like I see my friends who are parents and I see the amount of energy that goes into that. So imagine you have all this, responsibility and chores and everything you have to do for your children, especially when they're young, and you have to put all that energy and time, but especially the energy. So all that energy into focusing on doing for the children and, going here and whatever activities parents do. And then you really don't get time to recharge if you're an introvert who needs to recharge by themselves, because you're going to be always surrounded by at least one child, you know what I mean? So I don't know how introverts who are parents do it. Is it because maybe they're married to an extrovert?
My brother's an introvert and he has introverted children. So it kind of works. But I think, well, especially as they get older, it's like, yeah, I see my kids when they need something to eat and then they go to their room. So he has a lot of downtime and he's raising his kids, he's the primary caregiver. So, and the mother of, maybe that's why they're introverted, because it's a very, very quiet family. I think my mother was an introvert, but it made me think, like what you were describing, Isabel, it makes me think that perhaps because, I guess I'll use my mom as an example. Like my mom had friends, but she was really focused on that and on raising us. And I kind of wonder if that was her security as an introvert, having two children that were hers to raise. And it's kind of like I said earlier about having something to care for, someone to care for. I kind of get that sense that, I mean, no doubt she was exhausted. Plus she was always really sick, but she didn't really talk about that. I feel like that gave her a sense of something, which is what she needed to gain energy, was by raising children. So I'm kind of wondering if there's that, because I look at it like my creativity is my net, my security, if you will. Like if I have a purpose and I'm making something, that really brings me a lot of energy. And maybe that's what people are like having children. Because it's I mean, on the flip side, when you have kids, you have to interact with other parents and all that stuff. And as an introvert, like, you got the play dates and you got all this stuff. And I'm like, that would really suck. This is something we talked about when Tom James was on the show, like way back when, like having to have those forced connections with, our friends are kids, therefore we have to be friends as well, type of thing. Like as an introvert, that is a nightmare. That thought is a nightmare of having to go to these social events with people you don't really want to be around, but our kids are friends, so like that, forget it. But I'm just thinking,
Why not do it?
Yeah,
no, just wouldn't do it. My dad didn't do it. You don't have to. You do not have to socialize with other parents. You can just be like, off you go, have fun.
I think, I don't know. I would definitely feel pressure to do that, which I don't like. But I can see where if what you've created is kids and you want to be around that might be of help. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't really have any scientific backing for that, but
there's another thing that I just thought of it, and times have changed a lot. When we were children, our parents could say, take us to a children's party and be like, off you go, pick you up at 6 or whatever. Nowadays,
that's true.
Parents have to be present at the party because of the whole, the way that, what is it called, responsible upbringing or something? I can't remember the exact term.
Helicopter parenting.
I think helicopter parenting is the despective term, but there's like another term for, anyway, I don't know the terms because I'm not a parent and I haven't, obviously not read about it. I have not. But when I think, because I see it in the parties now, they have to, there's always one parent or at least one caregiver of each child has to be there just in case, and you never know, like there's just so much lurking around. I don't know if, maybe it was the same when we were children, probably, but just now it's just been so magnified, like sexual abuse or kidnapping children or just abuse in general. And it's just, everything's just So what if you had to go to a children's party and be there from the beginning until the end?
Well, I have
My child would be a
been
forced introvert.
as an aunt, I have been to kids' parties in recent years when I would take my younger, like when my nephews were younger, I would go to, like, because one my best friend from high school, her kids are kind of around the age of my nephews, and so she would invite me to those things. And why am I laughing? Because I would actually go. I would take the youngest. I took both once, and then I would take the youngest nephew when he was like really young, and then him and I would just be playing downstairs together. I'm like, why are we here? Because I mean, I wanted to see my friend, but she's surrounded by all the other parents who are talking about their kids, and they assume I'm one of them. And then I'm like, yeah, this is my nephew. And then I'm bored, so then I go down and play with my nephew because it's a giant house, and we're like just hanging out. Or like, do you want to go? Yeah, okay, let's go. Because it's like, what are we? Why are we here? So I have been to those, and then I stopped going because I realized I don't. I want to be supportive, but look, I'm just not. That's just not me. So I don't really think we're missing out on much, to be honest.
As an introvert, I can tell you that kind of lifestyle does not appeal to me at all. Like
No.
having to be present and be around people all the time for the sake of my child, because the child needs to socialize, because the child needs to have friends, then the child needs to create bonds with people other than their family, which is all, very healthy for a kid, of course. And parents who do that, I don't know how you guys do it, but I know that I would not enjoy that at all.
They do get their downtime. The only hint, and I think I might have told you guys this before, but the only hint I got of the utter all-consuming joy of being alone, like I've never felt it like this before, was when Ian, excuse me, was when Ian's friend visited with his wife at the time and their baby. I'm talking like baby of age that can be placed on a tabletop, just like you set it places. Or no, a baby and a kid, like a little kid that would run around. I think he was maybe 4. So there was a lot going on. Like there was an interesting dynamic between the adult couple. The kid who could talk was always talking. The baby had needs that the mother constantly had to tend to. And even that is an activity in itself. Like watching a mother tend to a baby is strangely tiring. And at one point, they all finally went to bed. No kids anywhere, no one anywhere, no voices anywhere. Even Ian went upstairs, and I was alone in the living room. And I was just like, this is nice. This is quiet. This is being alone. I mean, it was like nothing I'd ever experienced ever. Because I think kids were the different factor there, the whole family rush and family energy. And so a parent might get that moment at the end of the day, but my God, they have to wake up. Like you only get that little bit of time between when everybody is gone and you go to sleep. And when you're asleep, that doesn't count because you're not conscious of your alone time, and you're just up and you're doing it all over again. And I've been watching Mad Men lately, and Betty is like constantly making dinner and waiting for her husband and making dinner again and doing stuff for the kids again. And I'm watching this thinking I would have gone fucking crazy. I would need drugs. Like I could not take it. I couldn't take all that having to tend to people all the time and completely forgetting who you are. I couldn't take the constant people around, and also the repetition, like just this routine that never ends. Like I couldn't take it. There's nothing about motherhood that I could honestly handle without having to run away and be like some kind of escape mom or runaway mom or something.
Is this Ian's friend that calls his kids fuck trophies?
No, that's a different friend.
Can we get them on the show? No, I mean, life is mundane at the best of times, but that is just, again, experience it with aunthood for a week, especially when the nephews were younger. Like I enjoyed it, but that was because it was maximum a week and then they were gone. And because you don't necessarily lose your identity as an aunt unless they're with you all the time. But I know that my brain was never fully on anything that I was doing, because there was that part of me that's like, okay, at this time I have to check on them, or we're gonna go do this activity, or I got to feed them, or I have to make sure that they brush their teeth, or when they were really young, I would never be able to sleep because one ear was always open in case they woke up vomiting, which happened once. So and even going to the movie theater, like one kid's running this way and you're trying to wrangle the other one. And then again, this is just an aunt experience. And I'm like, why do people want to do this? Like it was constant. It's again, especially, and I say this again, having a brother who's raising his kids, but as the mother in the mother role, like it's just extra. It seems, and the emotional aspect of it, like it's a lot. And so I guess it's not really like, why do people want to do this? It's just like, why are people forcing other people or making it? Why does pronatalism exist that it says that we have to do this? Because the four of us. Oh, good Lord, I'm seeing.
You are tired.
I am tired.
You're seeing double.
I don't know why I said 4, but the three of us, whoever's on this Zoom call, we all agree like that's a big no. Like there's nothing appealing about that. And I'm pretty convinced that there are people who have kids that feel the way we do, but it's still too late. So
Yeah, the thing is, yeah, like you said it yourself, it's not necessarily why would people do this, but it is, you better really want to do it. There was just an essay circulating by a mom who doesn't regret motherhood, but she does sometimes envy people who aren't mothers, because she said that by the time the end of the day rolls around, she'll sometimes be sobbing by herself in a room because there's nothing left for her. Like after this day of doing all the stuff that you have to do for everyone else, there's just nothing left for her, and she just feels depleted. And I get that that is part of the experience of parenthood. Maybe even traditional role fathers feel this way. I don't think so. Like, I don't know if she's a stay-at-home mom, but I know that if you get to go to work, you get to still be yourself in that environment. You're not at home constantly a father, constantly a husband doing something for your wife. You get to have some semblance of yourself. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to be giving that much of yourself, and if you're going to be crying in a closet at the end of the day, you better really want to do this before you get into that.
But I was just going to ask, have you two, and I'll answer this question because unlike Kristen, I'm not afraid to answer my own questions.
I'm not afraid to. I was just saying.
Have you ever been in a time in your life where you don't have had that feeling that you haven't had a chance to yourself, whether it's consumed in a relationship with work or whatever? Like for me, it was usually work. There was just so much, like I never felt like I had to push my creativity aside because I didn't know there was just no opportunity or whatever. Have you ever had that point in your life where you're like, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't want to do this, but I have to do this, whatever it is. Have you ever had that experience ever in the 27 years we've all been alive?
I have. I mean, I can recall. I mean, there was a time when I was studying and I was working, and I would leave my house at around 7:30 or 8 in the morning, and I would be back at midnight, and I would be like all day just having to interact with people. And the thing is, I got completely worn out, and my body just gave up. My body was like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. And I fell asleep, and I think it was like I fell asleep for like 30 hours or something. I just died. Like my body just
shut down.
Shut down. And I can also recall one specific relationship in which my ex-boyfriend was extremely possessive, and he just wanted to spend a lot of time with me, and like every single fucking day. And when you're in love, you're like, okay.
Can you say that again?
Every single fucking day. Yeah. And when you're in love, you're like, okay, well, maybe this is normal. I don't know. Maybe this is normal. This is what normal relationships, this normal boyfriends and girlfriends do or whatever. Because I honestly, I had just broken up sort of like this pattern with the bad boy figure, and he was like the new one for a different pattern that I already broke against. So don't worry about me. I'm fine in that sense. But he just consumed so much of my time and my space and he didn't understand when I told him I just want to be by myself today. For him, it just didn't. He couldn't. It was impossible for him to understand that his girlfriend wouldn't want to see him one day. And I remember I just ended up just completely just not wanting to spend any more time with him ever. Kristen's face is the best.
I get that, which is why it's kind of scared me off of relationships, because I know that, especially, one specifically where I wasn't sure where I was going in life anyway. And then you get caught up in something in someone else's life. And for a time, it's fun because it gives you something to do. And then you're like, this isn't me. This is when I really learned that I was not an extrovert, because this person really liked to party and liked to have people over all the time. And, it was like Ian. But yeah. And then you're like, wait, this isn't me. Who am I? And it's hard. And there admittedly a lot of crying involved on my end in the bathroom because like I want to leave. I want to live by myself. I don't know what me is or who me is anymore, but I just know I want to be by myself and figure that out. And that was a long time ago, and I'm still not crying in the bathroom anymore, but just like happy. but so I've had that feeling, but I guess the obvious difference is we can kind of do something about it. When we are in those states, it's more temporary than a parent situation. So for me, like just the thought of not being able to escape, not really, because you hear this from parents where the two parents are away going on a trip and all they talk about is their kids, or they're constantly checking in with their kids, or they're thinking, well, what are our kids doing? Or are our kids okay? Like that can't really be exhausting. That can't be relaxing either. So, and not to knock anything, it's just the reality of like, you can't really escape. You can't disassociate. Not really. I mean, I saw my brother go away for a week, and his kids were still texting. I'm like, Dad, where's this? Where he's like, I'm not in the country. Like, go ask. At the time, the mother was there, like there, even though there was technically the oldest one that was doing most of everything. But I just there's no escape. So the thought of having that, I don't care how much unconditional love is involved. I can't. I don't want to do that for many reasons. I also just don't want to have kids. But that would I don't think that would be worth it, not being able to stop or get out of it.
I was trying to think if I had been consciously like frustrated about not having, I don't think I've ever lost track of myself or not felt like I had time or space to be myself. I have been frustrated by not having time to write. That's really the closest I can get is being kind of like time stifled or even job stifled in terms of, because when I wrote for the newspaper, the last thing I wanted to do when I came home was write some more. So I'm writing all these like articles and they're not creative, but it was kind of an exhausting job. And I didn't want to come home and, oh my God, I didn't want to write. Like I just didn't want to think about anything. And one time I didn't sleep for 30 hours like Isabel, but I was pretty new to the paper, pretty nervous about the job, pretty nervous about the stuff I was writing about because it was all education and like it started out by going to Board of Education meetings and trying to figure out what the hell, because it's like, I mean, they've been having these conversations for years and I'm just jumping in on it brand new and like trying to put everything together and write an update on what their conversation was with like no knowledge of their history because I'd even just moved to the area. And there was one time I went into the bathroom in the morning before work and I just laid down on the bathroom floor and fell asleep. It wasn't for very long, but I can't even nap. So the fact that I laid down and fell asleep after having already gotten up for the day was very unusual. But that was just an exhaustion thing. I don't think I've ever, again, except for the feeling frustrated by not being able to write, I haven't given of myself to that degree. No, I've been lucky.
Well, I hope we answered the question that we received in that email, and because this whole being an introvert and child-free is quite fascinating. And we all hope that you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for sticking with us up until this moment. You can reach us. You can send us an email at childfreegirls@gmail.com with questions, comments, episode ideas. We love to hear from our listeners. We also have a special space in our blog for Dear Childfree Girls. So if you have any situation that it's sort of related to your child-free lifestyle that you just want our input in, just send us an email and make sure you put in the subject Dear Childfree Girls. It can be anonymous if you want to remain anonymous. You also have to just tell us in the email. And our website is childfreegirls.com.
And of course, we are all over social media. You can find us at Childfree Girls on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we are on Amazon. Our book is called Childfree Girls Comfort Food for Thought, available in paperback and on Kindle. And of course, you can leave us a 5-star review on Spotify. Just hit the star there, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Even if you listen to the show, you can go to Childfree Girls YouTube, hit subscribe, and that helps us out. And yeah, I guess that's it for social media.
We're very good on social media, so make sure you follow us.
We are, especially on Instagram.
Especially on Instagram. Let's see, the question for you today is, I guess, what are your feelings about being an introvert or an extrovert and how that would translate into parenthood? If you're an introvert, do you think that being a parent would affect that? Do you think you could find ways to work around it? And if you're an extrovert, don't you think it would be good to have a kid so you'd always have someone around? I'm just kidding. That was a total bingo.
I was going to say, have you
Lenora,
not listened to
it? You were like, what? How dare you even ask that?
I've got no poker face whatsoever. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess in general, just let us know your thoughts on this whole introversion parenthood subject. Maybe your parents were introverts, and how did that go? Let us know in the comments below or send us an email if it's a very private thing. And yeah, thanks again for hanging out with us.
Don't forget to tune in a couple of weeks for our newest episode.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.